So I'm going to admit into the neighborhood one of my cousins, my first cousin. He is the youngest of three first cousins of my father's sister. His name is Joshua Pinkow. He's on mute, so I'll ask him to unmute himself. Find that button, cousin Josh.
There it is.
There it is. Josh
Cousin David.
Pinkow in the neighborhood. Hey man,
How
how
are you?
are you getting any sleep at all?
Getting some sleep. I'll knock on wood. Little Luke's been the champion for the most part. Sleeps in some chunks. If I can get some, 2 or 3 hour chunks in the middle of the night, I'm good. And I'm
Yeah.
like a 6 hour night sleeper regardless. So
Oh,
I'm doing okay. Not too terrible, thankfully.
looking
Knock on wood. Let's hope
considering
that doesn't change.
well, let's tell people what you are referring. Little Luke. Little Luke was born when?
Ooh, October 24th.
October. So it's been over. It's about 8 or 9 days now. It's what? No,
Yeah, a little bit. What is it, 11 days? What? Time is just nonsensical to me at this point. Every day is the same. So what is this? The sixth? Oh, yeah, about 12 days or so.
so Luke is a male. You've checked, right?
Yeah, we checked thoroughly.
Good, good, good. And Luke is how much was he? How many?
7 pounds, 9 ounces, 21 and a half inches long. Little healthy boy.
Thank God, God willing, God willing.
Yeah,
Now, where are you?
exactly.
Where are you guys living? You and David.
Oceanside now. So we were in Long Beach. We had our apartment in Long Beach that we loved.
Yeah.
In the beginning of COVID, when the pandemic started, two people are working from home. We have the dog, and we had a great apartment, but it shrinks down very quickly. We're both working from the dining room table, so we listed the apartment and ended up buying a house in Oceanside. So
Big
we've been here.
Mazel.
Yeah, thank you. We've been here now since I guess December of last year. We closed December 2020.
How do you like living in? Are you near an ocean at all? Do you go to
We are
Long Beach?
relatively close to the water still.
Yeah.
Across the street from us, everybody's their backyard is a dock, so they're right on the water there. Yeah, but yeah, we're beach people still. So Long Beach not too far from us, but we're there every weekend in the summer.
So here's the thing. For we'll save the reveal, but I hope you can bring on the tot for at least a
Uh,
moment.
I can see. I think Dana might be feeding him at the moment,
Oh no,
so
no, no, no.
I'll text her and see if she can bring him in. But we'll see if he
Yeah,
can make
not
an
not
appearance.
during
I'd
that
love to.
particular. Much as I'd like to see her hooters in that
Yeah.
particular moment, that be no, would not. So this is also kind of meaningful to me. Luke, nice Jewish boy, not so much a Jewish name. Where did that L come from? Was that for?
That was for my father for Les. Obviously, I was going to spare the kid being called Lester for his whole life as much as I love my father. So I went with an L name, and I've got to tell you, it's like a little challenging finding some good L names. And my brother and sister already have their kids with an L name, so I tried to follow the suit. But yeah, we ran through it a little bit. Just, Luke, nice name, kind of liked it, and then the middle name Foster, F name for Dana's grandmother, um,
I
Florence, and
also
then
right.
yep, and who passed away the same week as Uncle Philip, actually, as your father, literally 2 days apart. And then we did the Hebrew name at his bris. We named him Fievel for your father, actually. And I spoke to Aunt Brenda about that, which I was very happy to be able to do.
Right. So my dad's name was Philip, but his Hebrew name was Fievel, and
Yep,
so you the middle name of Luke is Foster, F for her grandma, and F for my dad, and the full Hebrew name Fievel, which is
exactly.
neat. So and
Oh,
why did you not call Rabbi Saul Solomon to do the bris?
I've seen those hands at work. I needed somebody with a steady hand for that one.
I cannot blame you there. I can't blame you. Do you have any stories? Yeah, I know the kid's only like 12 days old, but do you have any amazing Luke stories or stories about you guys dealing with Luke as brand new parents?
I mean, listen, the first one that cracked me up, I mean, I guess now in the hospital, Dana gives birth and they leave the baby in the room with you, which is great because they want you to get as much attention, obviously now in the pandemic, as little exposure to everybody else as possible. So they leave the baby in the room with you. So Dana gives birth, they put the baby down and it's sleeping in the bassinet there. And I try to conk out for a little bit because it had been a long stretch. It was like 36 hours since we had first gotten there.
Stretch being literal. I mean,
Yeah, it was a long weekend. So try to get some sleep and all of a sudden the baby starts crying. And I look at Dana, I was like, all right, well, shoot, what are we doing here? And I hit the nurse's button for them to come in. They come in, it's like, well, is everything okay? I said, yeah, the baby's crying. And they look at us, they say, okay, feed him. I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And it's like the immediate realization that is like, okay, we have no real idea what we're doing here. Figure that out very quickly.
No, wait, you didn't take classes. You didn't read like 20 Dr. Spock books or
I mean,
whatever.
listen, right? Read some books, did some research, but all that is meaningless until all of a sudden you have a little 7 pound baby screaming in the corner and you got to figure out what the hell it wants. That life, that realization comes at you quickly, and then you figure
Have,
that out on the fly.
have you thought about selling it at this point? Have you tested it?
I hear you can get good money, but no, I think we'll keep them.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, I didn't even say Mazel Tov. Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Really, really, really great. So more importantly, since you're my cousin and since I've known you since you were a tiny little tot, do you have any stories about me that won't embarrass
Uh,
the hell out of me?
No, I won't embarrass the hell out of you, but I always associate you with comedy and good humor, and part of the way that I have developed my own sense of humor from being a kid and watching like Ren and Stimpy with you to South Park, and as this stuff's evolved, like that's who you've always been to me, is the fun, goofy cousin with a great sense of humor. And I don't think my mom or our parents quite match that sense of humor that we've always grown up with, but it kind of just makes for it, and that's what I've always associated with you in the back of my mind.
I'll take it. That's absolutely fine by me. Tell me some stories about your dad, Lester Pinkow, who passed.
Uh,
He passed more than a decade ago. I think it's been
Yeah,
a
no,
while.
it'll be what year is 2021? It'll be 14 years this month, actually, November 22nd,
Right.
Thanksgiving Eve. But my dad was the greatest, and it's kind of crazy. We're that far out, but I can still hear his voice in the back of my mind. But he was always the guy who can hold court and be in any room and talk to anybody, and just kind of lead a conversation, just universally known as a gentleman. But for me, my memories of my dad, it was always, going on the long bike rides with him, and or watching sports, playing sports, or just, I don't know. Yeah, I had the benefit of growing up when my father used to commute into the city 5 days a week. And if you remember, when I was about 10 years old, he started his own company and became local. So all of a sudden, Adam and Stephanie, my older brother and sister who grew up, he probably wouldn't have been able to come to their sports events, their this or that. For me, he was at everything. And that to me, I mean, I don't know if I appreciated it as much then. Certainly now, when I've been a commuter into the city and I see kind of what that life is, to see how present he was and everything that he was able to do, he was the greatest. I mean, like I said, he was universally known as a gentleman and just taught me everything.
Tell me a funny Lester story.
A funny Lester story. Oh man, I probably should have prepared one off the top of my head. You know, so Aunt Ann, his sister, stayed out with me in August when she had come in, and she kind of reminded me, as serious as my father could be, and he was a very successful businessman, and he was just a good guy. He would laugh at the silliest nonsense, and a good fart joke would put him over the edge. So that as successful as somebody could be, or as serious as he might be at times, it was the silly stuff that he would always laugh at, and just kind of try to little poke my mom about that kind of stuff. That was Lester Pinkow.
Have you had moments? I mean, again, you're only been a dad for like 12 days, where you find yourself being your dad yet, or is that going to come when the kid is 2 or 5 or 10 or something like that?
I mean, I'm sure I'll identify it more as I get a little older, but yeah, I've always kind of felt that way because professionally, when I finished college, I went to work for him, and that was the plan initially, is I was going to go work for the family company. So now, while I'm not doing that as my main job, I learned how to be a professional, how to be a man, kind of just observing him that way. So I've always tried to compare myself and see, like, what would my dad do in this situation? But he was always a pretty calm voice of reason when I was growing up. If something went down or if I was upset, he was never the one to panic or start yelling or freaking out about something. So just in that sense, like, something's happening with the baby, if he's starting to cry, just trying to maintain the level head that I think he would have
Yeah.
had or showed me or told me to do it in that moment. That's kind of where I see it for now. But like I said, when the kid grows older and I have an opportunity to do the things that he did with me, take him on the bike rides or get him interested in my hobbies the way that my father did, that's what I'm looking forward to the most, truth be
What are
told.
your hobbies, Josh?
Uh, Ask Dana and she'll make fun of you. I have endless hobbies. I can't sit still. I love, in the summer, I love to play golf. I'm a big time snowboarder. So in the wintertime, that's my favorite thing to do. I would do that every day for the rest of my life and be the happiest man ever.
Oh,
Yeah, in the pandemic, one of the things I wanted to figure out, I started to learn how to play guitar. So now, I'll strum around and play guitar a little bit. I'm not very good, but it's one of those things that there's no financial incentive to trying to work hard at it. There's no competition. I'm a competitive guy by nature. So, if I'm playing golf and I'm playing with a friend, yeah, I want to have a little match. We talk a little smack and it's fun. And I love that. But sometimes you just need
Yeah.
that outlet that's not that, you know? So I'm not seeking financial gain. I'm not seeking competition. I sit there and I suck at guitar, but it's kind of fun and I'm learning and it's something that you strive for, you know?
Now, we've been very phallocentric so far in our conversation. It's only fair to bring in the ladies a little bit.
Yeah.
So now you have to be a little more careful because your mom, thank God, Bonnie is still alive and well. But
Yep.
tell me a Bonnie story. You know, she is my aunt.
Yeah. You might have more than I.
Hmm.
I don't know. I really
It's your
should prep.
mom. Wait a minute. Wait,
No, no. But as far as like funny stories, something
or
like that.
yeah, or you know,
Um, I don't, off the top of my head, funny. I mean, I love my
or
mother
or,
to
or
death. I've
heartwarming,
never,
or elbow warming, or just a memory. You know, anything. Any.
well, honestly, my mom, especially after my father died, was just like a rock for me and for us and what we went through. So just not to be overly like warm and fuzzy about it, but my mom obviously went through a lot and was able to stand pretty strong about it. So I've always respected her for that. And in those years when I had moved back after college and was with her and was working with the family company, like she and I certainly developed a special bond when we were going through that kind of stuff living at home. But I don't know, like I would love to come with a funny story, and I love my mother, but I've never I always make fun of her that she has no sense of humor, or at least not one that I align with like that.
Not true. That is actually not
No,
true. Yeah, yeah.
not really true. She does have a sense of humor, but like I said, things that you and I might find funny, my mom might get a little
Oh,
offended by in her sensibilities.
that's fair.
I don't think Ren and Stimpy and South Park were ever up her alley.
Yeah. But she's come to my plays and she seems to have enjoyed them somewhat. So yeah, so
Oh, absolutely. And again, my mom's the kind of person that even if your play was something that truly was not her humor, not her style, just to see you up there and succeeding and enjoying yourself doing it, I mean, that's the stuff that makes her the happiest. So, you know, to be a part of being able to support you doing that makes her as happy as anything else. It also helps when your plays are hysterical and we're sitting there laughing organically, like that's all the better.
orgasmically, I'm saying it was
Yeah,
embarrassing to watch her.
exactly.
My aunt, I was like, stop that. What is, since I, you know, I don't think you've ever been on this program before, so let's really dig in. What is your first memory of being alive? Like, do you remember being in the crib? Do you remember being a 4-year-old, a 6 year
No,
old?
you know what I do remember is Grandma Lucy's apartment. And I remember like the old carpet at Grandma Lucy's apartment and just like the way her living room was set up. And I mean, who knows how old I really was for that, but I do have young memories of just like being little and futzing around on the floor in Grandma Lucy, or even Aunt Sadie's apartment. I do have some really young
Oh
memories
my
of like,
God.
you know, when
Sadie,
we,
I should, let's see, Grandma Lucy was my dad's mom, and also your mom's mom, right?
yep,
And then Aunt Sadie. Now this I never get right. Aunt Sadie was Grandma Lucy's sister.
I'm the worst at the family tree. So
Oh no, yeah, I'm the worst.
no,
Okay, no,
it wasn't Sadie Sam's sister.
you're right. Of course, my
Am I right? I'm really
sister. You
shooting
got
from the
it.
hip
There
there,
we
but
go.
I
Yeah.
think I'm really poor. I don't know if you want to know the truth, and my
No, you're
mom
right.
will be
She was.
furious with me that I don't know the answer to that. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I love
uh,
Aunt Sadie, and she had this apartment. She was this great spinster aunt, which is usually code for lesbian, but in this case, it's not true. She was just a spinster aunt who had the New York apartment, didn't have any kids, and but would treat you and me and Michael and Sheldon and kind of be the great New York aunt, bring you in for a meal, go to a show, go to the cookery and see. I mean, that was her, you know.
yep. And interestingly, again, you probably have more memories outside of the apartment with Sadie. I mean, I was still pretty young when Aunt Sadie had passed away, but my
Yeah.
memories there, we always used her apartment as the central meeting place when we would go into the city to see Michael and everybody, or go a couple times a year. We would go to like the cemetery and see the grandparents, everybody, and bury there. And we would end up going there and getting deli and sitting in her apartment with everybody, with Jody
Right.
and the whole family.
So let's also talk a bit about your work life and things that you can talk about. Because one of the interesting things for me and things that I mentioned was, you know, in my career and being a journalist and doing this, I've talked to a lot of celebrities and I've interviewed them and I know them and so forth. But you constructed deals for like incredibly well known, famous, mostly sports people to do
Yeah.
commercials and to do. So you're not doing that job anymore, but you were. Can you
No,
tell
yeah, I
me?
mean, I have a lot of connections in that space, but I basically worked as a sports marketing agent for the better part of a decade, and I loved it. It was an interesting business that I woke up one day kind of frustrated by the efforts I was putting in and some of the benefit that I was getting out at one point. So I just kind of decided there was a change to be made. But certainly one of the cooler stretches of my life, and gone to very cool events, and like I said, put together some, excuse me, some marketing deals, some opportunities for athletes, and not just athletes, but notable celebrities, and just a cool thing to be a part of. And you see people
Like
in
who are
commercials,
like a couple of the most famous people? Because you're not in that job anymore, and you can.
right?
There's no confidentiality, whatever. So,
No,
like,
and truth be told, I mean, nothing that I worked on really would have been held to any confidentiality agreements. Once they're public, these deals are still Googleable now. But the agency that I worked for at the time, I mean, it was big in football, the Olympics, golf. So some of the athletes that the agency rep that I did some deals with, I mean, Jim Furyk was the biggest golfer that we had rep with. Kerry Walsh Jennings, the volleyball player, Olympic volleyball player, 3-time Olympic gold medalist. You would certainly know her by face. But she was one of the more
whatever
notable
she's
that
wearing
I
playing
worked with.
volleyball, which would be a lot more fun to look at. Yeah.
And then a number of football players: Mark Ingram, Greg Olson, not Jim, sorry, Troy Aikman,
Troy
who's
Aikman.
broadcasting now.
Yeah.
We represented him at that company at the time. So,
So
like I said, a very
walk me through this. Walk me like
sure.
you. Some company wants them to represent their product, or they're looking for a company for which they can make millions of dollars. What was a deal that you would give me an example of how this would work?
So, so let's say that at the time the company was signing on a new athlete, you would start by getting into a decent holistic approach into who this person is, right? What are their interests? What are their hobbies? Because you'll reach out proactively to some of the companies that maybe they incorporate into their daily life, or maybe just makes sense in some capacity. Maybe that company was a sponsor of the college that they went to, and now they use the product. I mean, you try to draw the connection a number of different ways. And then obviously, quite frequently, brands and products and companies are looking to have an ambassador, a face of the company, to help spread some messaging and just really bring a spotlight to whatever they are, whatever they're working on, an event that they might have. So they'll reach out to talent agencies, people of that ilk, to try and come up with an idea. Hey, who do you think would fit our brand? And we'll put together, or at the time we would have put together a list of people who make sense to embody their culture, show what this company is all about. And that's the back working of it. And I would say Carrie, and you weren't too familiar with who she was, but Carrie, one of the cooler athletes, and really a pretty special person that I had worked with. She is a three-time Olympic gold medalist in beach volleyball. And for her third gold medal, she was actually 8 weeks pregnant with one of her children, and she was able to win Olympic gold. And she really was this, very hands-on mother, loved motherhood, and loved just.
Actually, you know what? It would be much more impressive if she were 8 months pregnant.
Yeah, it sure would.
Oh no! Wait, that's my stomach. Wait.
Yeah,
Yeah. Right.
you'd be surprised though. Women in that first trimester, as I saw with Dana, are physically exhausted. So now to have seen my wife go through pregnancy, and she crushed it. She really was a rock star. And to think back and see that there are Olympians who might be competing when they're pregnant is really kind of freaking incredible. But we would look at something like that and reach out to companies that might make sense to tell a story like that. So there were a couple of opportunities that we had put together that just embrace that health and wellness lifestyle that she embodied, or a couple of kind of motherhood focused deals that might be opportunities to tell a good story about what it is to be a busy working mom or something like that. There's just a lot of that.
Well, let me ask you though. I mean, and I'm just thinking, this is the mind-boggling part. How many zeros? It's like, let's say you make a deal with someone like that. Are we talking literally?
Well,
like,
that part I'll leave out. I mean, it depends. Some athletes command a very healthy fee for what they do, and not just athletes, celebrities in general. If you see, a high profile A-tier celebrity in a commercial, they're getting compensated very, very well for that. Some are 7-8 figures, and some are small deals that are. Oh, you'd be surprised. I mean, if you think about the real cultural icons who are getting some of these opportunities, and I'm talking the real top end. Yeah, they would be commanding some just incredible figures. Most of these deals that we're talking about, that a lot of marketing agents, people who are in the field that I was in, they're working on $50,000 opportunities, 100, and you fill up that bucket doing a lot of that. And then obviously, if you get that superstar who can command the big figures, well, obviously that's what you're looking for. But
did you get percentage, or were you just paying a salary, or how did you?
No, I mean, I had a salary at the company, and then you get percentages of the deals. It was, a normal. Not a huge. Don't get too excited. It wasn't that. There's a reason I had left. I'm not unhappy with my time there, but like I said, I decided there was another opportunity out there, a better path for me that
Well,
I was a little
what are you doing now? What job? By the way, this is my cousin Joshua Pinkow. What do you do now?
So now I work at Wells Fargo and I
Mhm.
sell mortgages at Wells Fargo.
Well, no, so you're not selling houses. You are
No, no, no.
you're making
I
no.
help people with their home financing. And while I'd love to like expand on that, I'll be very upfront. I actually would have to get proper clearances and everything to promote. No, no, not that. I mean, I can certainly say that this is what I do for a living, and I'm very happy. And I love working for the team that I'm at Wells and everything. But you know, the best, the best that I can say is that I would have to get some clearances to be able to give more insight into kind of what the mortgage process is or anything like that. But
But it's mortgage originations. That was like my
yeah,
first
yeah,
job out of
absolutely. Yeah,
college.
yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I didn't actually do them. I helped. I was supporting. I would like type in the percentage. It's like back then it was something like 6.84% on mortgages. Now what is
It's
it? What is
very
it? 2.6 or something? Or
Yeah, I mean, there certainly could be. I mean, rates are still very low in compared to where historical rates used to be. But it's kind of funny to hear people talk about mortgage rates from the yesteryear and say six something. I've had people tell me that they had 10% when these things sound like usury now. It's kind of funny.
except
It's
of course the houses
a
back then were
different time.
$30,000.
Right, exactly.
That's the whole difference. Hey, where do you see? I mean, you probably have some sort of insight, or maybe not, into where the housing market is and is going to be in like 6 months. Do you see a crash?
Honestly, no more than anybody else. And the best guidance that I can give is if you're in the housing market, talk to a realtor or somebody who is qualified to be able to give you some good quality guidance. Or if you have a mortgage guy you're talking to,
Mhm.
make sure they're reputable and ask the people around you, the people who are qualified to give you that guidance for some good answers. And certainly I try to give people some honest answers, but it's impossible to say who would have thought 2 years ago that there would have been a global pandemic that would have thrown everything to a tailspin. So it's quite impossible, unfortunately.
Now let me, since we have just a few more minutes with Mike, we're going to ask you to stay for the trivia quiz, but you gave us just a half an hour, so.
Yeah, I might have to run off shortly. I can hear the baby fussing in the other room, but I'll give Dan a hand with the baby and the dog.
Well, I'm assuming Dana has her tits in, so can she bring can she bring the brat in and we can
Let me
see
see.
her in it?
I'll shoot her a text. Let me see what the deal
Yeah,
is.
I love this. He's in another room in the same house. It's like
Well,
I can't get up.
I have the dog who can get kind of loud, so I closed the door to my office here because if the dog started shrieking, your show wouldn't be too
Now is
friendly
the
here.
dog with you? Because at
No,
least we can show
the
the
dog's
dog.
in the
The
other
dog
room
is
with
also there
Dana
too.
and the baby.
Just we need to get. I mean, part of the purpose of having you, much as you've been great to talk to, much as you're a really wonderful speaker and have this presence, we want to see the damn baby. So
Yeah, of course. Like I said, we got to see where she is and see if she's actually able to. So give her a minute. Let's
yeah,
keep talking. I want to see if she can bring him in.
so let's also keep talking. By the way, my cousin Joshua is here. So are you still now commuting to Manhattan, or are you able to work from Long Island now?
Been working home since the beginning of the pandemic. We will be back in an office one day soon, and I'm happy to go in maybe 2 days a week, 3 days a week. I
But
think
your Wells Fargo is everywhere. Are you in
yeah,
Manhattan?
no,
You work here when you
no,
say.
I work in an office in Manhattan
Oh, okay.
traditionally, and then pre-pandemic we were in an office setting. Given what's been going on, I've been home since then, but we will be returning. But I
In
do.
Manhattan. Why do you have to be in Manhattan? Why can't they put you in a Wells Fargo in the South Shore, Long Island, or something? I don't get that.
So the team that I work on is really centered in around Manhattan. So yes, there are Wells Fargo branches and there are mortgage originators and people in my role everywhere. The team that I'm on, the group that I'm in, is centered in and around Manhattan.
Okay. Now I'm also curious in terms of how we just got a new mayor of New York City. I don't live in New York. Manhattan. You don't live in Manhattan, but have you? How has New York been? Have you been back to Manhattan since the pandemic for any reason?
So I've been in a couple of times. One night I went in and had dinner with a coworker, which was great, just because we hadn't seen each other and felt like it was nice, and things had kind of eased a little
Yeah.
bit in the summer, able to eat outside, things like that. Um, I have not been in very much. I'll tell you that. I actually went in last year for the first Knicks playoff game when the Knicks were playing the Hawks, and I'm a diehard Knicks fan. So the Knicks were good, and I just got vaccinated, and there was some real enthusiasm. This is actually a good story. I'm trying to think of when exactly the game was, but it would have been last spring. The vaccine was available now for a few months. So you had a real enthusiasm of people being able to go and do things a little more confidently. The Delta variant hadn't really reared its ugly head too much yet. So New York City obviously had been pretty quiet, shut down through this pandemic. The Knicks, I don't know for anybody listening, for you, the Knicks are my favorite team, but for the last 20 years have been just an absolute abomination.
Yes.
So now you've got this team last year who's
New York Jets. Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
oh, that too. But the Knicks were great last year, kind of out of nowhere. I mean, they have some good young players, but nobody thought they'd be as good as they were last year. They make the playoffs, and now they're hosting a home playoff series. And that hasn't happened in a long time for this team. So now a buddy of mine gets us tickets. We go to this game, and there was a palpable excitement being in that room in Madison Square Garden. They ended up losing the game, but it almost didn't matter. Like, people were so excited that one, the Knicks were relevant, and here we are, we're cheering our balls off, and everybody's going crazy. But like the New
And
York
also, you
City,
got together in a giant room with 50,000.
right, and interesting, like there was a vaccinated section we were sitting in. You had to show your vaccine passport.
Were you
That's
masked
not
all the time, or did you have to mask? Or
you didn't have to if you were in the vaccinated sections.
hmm.
So I think I did wear the mask. I don't even remember. It was the excitement of that night, but it was just this really wild vibe that like New York City is kind of back, and everybody was saying that, oh, the city might never be the same. It was fun. It was a good vibe in there. It was good to see that.
Yeah. No, I've got to say, I've been to New York about 3 times, literally in the past year and a half, and they were all in the past 2 months. And so coming in, I was saying, well, what is New York going to be like? It's New York. With all the stuff that's been thrown at de Blasio and all the stuff about the pandemic, and it's a war zone and it's a third world country. No,
No, and the residential areas,
yeah,
I still have a lot of friends who live in Manhattan, and in those residential areas, it's bumping. There's a great vibe still. I mean,
it's New
it's
York.
also New York. It's always going to bounce back.
Now, did you get a text from Dana? Because we've got like a couple of minutes. I want to see the baby, and I've got to bring like people in the neighborhood to play the game here that we do at 10:30.
So the bad news, yeah, the baby
Come
ate
on!
the baby's out cold. Hold on.
Well,
Let me
okay,
go.
fine. Hold it up quietly.
Oh, let's see.
You've got to be kidding me.
Let's see if I can get her.
Because of course, what I might ask is that if you can like log back on between 11:30 and noon or so, if the kid's awake and Dana's dressed or something, we at least get to show it or something. But come on, it's unbelievable.
Well,
Like,
I'm not getting
go back
I'm
to
not getting the
sleep.
quickest answers.
Wait, what, miss?
So I'm not getting the quickest answers, which means she's dealing with him right now. Doesn't have the phone in her hand.
Oh, yeah, no, but she even if it's squalling or doing what babies do, we can show it for a minute.
Hold on, because I don't want to run. Hold on.
This is his premiere. This is his.
He's not ready for prime time yet, I guess.
Good point. Oh boy! All right. Well, it's almost 10:30 in the morning. Let me remind people you're watching Dave's Gone By with me, Dave Lefkowitz. It's our 823rd episode of the show. We're calling it Joshing. Get it? We even have this. Does this ring any kind of bells, Josh?
I was going to point that out. Yeah. So for everybody looking, my wife made those for my 30th birthday, a couple years ago.
Well, how old are you now? You're not 40 yet. You're 31.
No, I think I'll be 35 this month. Yeah.
So that's almost that. That's kind of the middle. Do you feel middle-aged, or with all your sports stuff? Not at all, or
I mean, I feel pretty good. I try to stay pretty fit, and Dana and I eat pretty well. But I like to be a little younger to be sure. But 35 feels good, right?
yeah, knock wood.
Maybe works.
Do you have a picture of the baby? Do you hold up a picture of the baby?
I certainly do. I probably have too many pictures of the baby.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Hold on. I do have too many.
All your colleagues, when you go back to work, is like, here, let me show you this one. Let me show you this one. Let me show you this one.
Oh,
yeah.
Too many. Yeah. I don't know if you can see that. That's me.
Oh!
Yep. Come in. Hold on one second.
Oh boy! Oh boy! This is exciting. The absolute debut of my new cousin, Luke Foster Pinkow. Going to be coming onto camera in just a moment. Oh my God!
Hey boy, let's see. You got to look at the
I
camera.
love how you saved the reveal for the very last minute. Look how adorable.
Hold on. Let's
Okay,
see if
I'll be quiet. Not that I can do that very well.
buddy,
Hold it
say
quiet.
hi. Say hi.
Hey, Luke. Hey, Luke. You're a little
Hello.
baby. Yes, you are. Little baby potato wants to say hello, hello.
Buddy,
And his eyes are open.
buddy.
I thought they didn't have open eyes for a long time. I think they're
Let
blind,
me
right?
tell you, he that first night literally had the ability to like look around the room, almost look like he was scanning the room. And they can't see much at first, which now I'm starting to learn more about what they can and can't see, and the shapes, colors, or shades rather.
Yeah.
But his eyes were pretty focused and attentive, pretty much out of the gate. It was really interesting.
So hold him up one more time, and
Yep.
let's welcome to the neighborhood our circumcised friend Luke Foster Pinkow.
Say hi,
Has,
bud.
have you weighed him since? Is he like 8 something now, or how?
So we've been back to the pediatrician once, and they weighed him again, and he was at least back to his birth weight then, which is I think it was probably 5 or 6 days after he was born. So he's eating like a champ, eating, pooping, farting in our faces. It's great.
Yes, yes. He does belong in the neighborhood. If he's eating and pooping,
Exactly.
he belongs in the neighborhood. Josh, I'm sorry Dana doesn't want to be on camera, but that's okay. Wish her our love. Mazel tov, as Rabbi
Thank you
Paul
very
would
much.
say. Congratulations. Do not be, once this pandemic really is over, we'll get to see the baby in person, God willing.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Um,
buddy, say goodbye. Boop.
Bye from the neighborhood. And we have a new viewer because we're going
Yes,
to get more viewers. We have it, yes. So every Saturday,
exactly right.
instead of cartoons, watch this.
All right, we'll talk, Dave. Take care.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All health and all good things. Bye bye.
Yeah, you too. Bye bye.
My cousin Joshua, ladies and gentlemen.